Hi there, everyone. This is TJ.
This is Marco.
And Michał here.
And this is CG Talks, the podcast where CG guys talk about CG and other stuff as well. So today is the day for
October updates.
Yep.
Yay.
End of the month updates. On things on the farm side, as well as some general news on the CG grapevine that we've rounded up that we thought might be interesting to share.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening, so some good human filter is helpful to pick up the most important ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like for me, like October always starts as an Inktober from, like, I think since 3 years or so. I'm always trying to handle that somehow, but always fail on getting 30. Like these kind of challenges. I don't know if you guys participate in any kind of these challenges, like monthly.
I didn't.
Doing something like, the Beeple stuff that he's doing, like the dailies for so many years. I don't know how he does.
Yeah,
I used to join when I was starting out. I used to really enjoy participating in Nick Campbell's 5-second projects. Those were the best. You basically had to. It was mainly for the C4D community, but you could join from any software. Then you just had to make a 5-second short, and it was great. Like you could make all sorts of weird things, but like it stopped. And
I've seen a lot of stuff. Like at some point we tested some Octane, and I was and we were looking for some artists in C4D and Octane. Like they would give us some test scenes for testing the Xestop service, and I think I've seen a lot of this Cinema 4D short scenes, images, like posted on Instagram very often. And I think that this, though I really had the impression that this is some Cinema 4D thing, like going on, some challenge of doing short works every day or every second day. And I noticed that some cool artists emerged from that. Like some of the guys I found, I was sure that I could see their Instagram, how they are progressing quickly, and it was already like 2 years ago. And now I can see their works, and they up the game a lot. And I'm sure that basically gave birth to many artists in Cinema 4D.
It's definitely helping, like improvement, like getting this kind of a habit thing going. And I'm finding like it works for me to some extent, like doing this Inktober thing. Like it's not the only reason I'm like inclined to draw, but that's a good kind of like excuse for making it regularly, like every day something. And I was able to, like this year, to pull off like 12 drawings or so, and then something came along that just threw me off the pace, and boom, then I just dropped everything. Like it's really a bad thing to do probably, but I had so many other things on my plate there. But on the other hand, I was thinking like maybe like next year I should maybe try this with Blender, because there's so much fun things about doing stuff like this in Blender, like, especially in the latest releases. It's getting better and better, like this grease pencil stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it was in the
in 2.80 it was like already great, but they have improved it a lot, and it's getting more and more convenient.
Yeah, and 2.91 beta was released within October. That should count as an October update.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I wanted to also mention that, and especially I think especially the cloth brush improvements. Like there's a lot of this happening. Like it seemed like just a cool, fun toy that Pablo introduced. Like, and then like strangely it kind of appeared in every possible other software like I've seen, like things of this kind of nature. Like it seems like every other 3D application has some kind of a cloth brush right now.
Yeah, that's good. That it's like Blender is now not mimicking, but actually igniting the competition.
Yeah, setting the bar. Yeah. So, but yeah. Oh, sorry. So, okay. Let's. I think we should. Anybody got some more interesting news to share on the side of software? Autodesk has been has made some releases this month. You might even say today. So Arnold 6.1 as if today was shipped, and so was Flame 2021.2, which was shipped yesterday. Yeah, I don't know. Does anybody else have
I think like also Maya release was somehow during October, or am I wrong?
Oh,
I've seen like a post somewhere in the internet and a lot of users complaining about so little improvements or stuff like that in Maya. Like they were almost crying, like 3ds Max gets the attention. I just can't keep up with that, really, with what's going on in the Autodesk department somehow. But on the other hand, like for especially for Maya, there seems to be a new direct competitor coming, and that is Houdini. I don't know if you guys seen the latest release. It was released in October, the 18.5.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to watch the whole presentation because it was really long, like half an hour, like an hour and a half long presentation. I'll leave a link in the description, but there were a lot of nice improvements there in the Houdini side. And one of the key features like they are introducing is like focusing on the character animation in general. So like getting a real workflow for character animators inside of Houdini. And the idea that they introduced was like setting up a rigging environment inside SOPs, which is for non-Houdini users. These are surface operators for working. So like Houdini is working procedurally on everything. So you kind of like interact with the scene with the nodes most of the time. Like you can do something by hand as well, but like the core of Houdini workflow is like setting up networks of nodes for transforming your scene or geometry, and all the other dynamics and stuff like that. There, dynamics have their DOPS networks and stuff like that. So the idea is that they are introducing rigging just the same as geometry. So kind of like treating rigs as regular geometry with just points, like joints are points, kind of like bones are edges, so to speak. And you can like use all the tools that you have for manipulating geometry. You can apply these to the rigging part. And what was really cool that they shown, you can also do this vice versa, so like using rigging techniques for interacting with your geometry. So like for modeling, you can, for example, use the IK things. They shown that with the L system, so kind of like a tree branching off, and they were pulling some part of the tree, and it was like behaving like an IK rig.
Wow.
But how do they deal with the weighting though? I mean, how are you going to be? How is it?
There are tools.
How is it sophisticated enough to? Yeah.
Yeah, there are tools for like weight painting or weight modifying.
I was thinking when you said about this that there are just points and edges and they can be treated as normal nodes in Houdini. So the first thing I thought, well, I mean, okay, character animation is one thing, but you could rig a lot of complicated structures, like some kind of bugs, like this centipede stuff.
They were showing also like introducing this, because they're clearly aiming on creating some kind of like an interacting environment for everything, so that you can create procedural kind of like interactions between objects and with using for example like dynamic laws. They've shown like a rigged character interacting with a ball or something like that, so that when you change one parameters of the ball, like the rigged character just like dynamically answers to that. So it's kind of like
you really, give a bigger weight to a guy who's walking around with a stone. Like it's harder and harder.
Like the idea that they introduced is really inspiring, and awesome. I think it's kind of like a thing that the Blender Foundation is going for with the everything nodes. I think, like the general idea of it, it's kind of along the same lines to give all the environment inside the 3D application kind of like the same level ground, so that you can intersect different parts of it.
Yeah, simulations with rigging, for example, animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. I mean, completely out of my reach, because what I mean, I'm scared that you need to be some kind of coder to work with Houdini anyway. So it's not something easy to play around, just hoping. But maybe I'm wrong. But
I think to some extent you're right, but probably it's like in the beginning it will be like that, and then they will just introduce some ready-made presets and stuff like that. It's always like the tools are developing, but it's like with render engines. They were kind of like all introducing new features and stuff like that, and then there's, for example, like the Corona came for the ArcVis, and it simplified all the controls.
Yeah.
So probably while one developer is thinking about introducing a whole variety of tools, then there's someone else thinking about how to make it really simple to use for as much people as possible, right?
Wow, cool.
And by the way, along the same lines of getting things simpler, there was also new things in Photoshop, which I'm not really a user of right now, but it seemed like finally something really interesting that might introduce some catch for me to use, for example, Photoshop in some cases. And they introduced like neural network filters, which are kind of intelligent, using the AI technologies of today, filters that do some stuff. Like some of them were really like just like seemed like fun toys, like style transfer tools, for example. Might be cool to work with, to have some fun with it, but didn't really seem to be like that groundbreaking. But there were some really like tools, like, for example, automatic coloration of black and white photos. And it did a really good job. Like I've seen the presentation, the guy showed like a black and white photograph of a meadow with cows and stuff, and just with one button click you get a full color photograph of the same thing. And that's just because of the AI training model of that neural network training of the algorithm that is trained to recognize trees, grass, sky, and stuff like that.
We were talking with Cheyenne about last week about the Oldify. That was that tool he mentioned. It sounds similar. Like
that's one of the features also introduced, like tweaking the faces and stuff like that. So for retouchers, or I don't know, for deep fakers.
Wow, cool. I need to check it out.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Right. In the Houdini stuff also, I've seen this kind of like cloth brush thing going, like with their vellum. They have something similar right now. I don't know if it wasn't there before Pablo. Well, not sure. Before Pablo de Barro in Blender.
Wow, what an apt phrase, before Pablo de Barro. It's almost like a historical timeline. Like
Right.
DC, AD, BP.
Yeah, in Blender you can tell people like refer to the 2.80, like the before 2.80 era and after.
Yeah. But here we go again.
It's like Stone Age and
Yeah, but okay, sorry, non-Blender users, but also kind of not sorry. But yeah, we let's move on to other news. So anything else on the software front, or on the general industry front, for that matter? Okay, sorry. Last Blender related news, the Beacon is in full swing, right?
Beacon?
I think it will be tomorrow. Like we are recording.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
day before the launch of. But
Yeah.
while you will be listening to that, you'll probably
Or-
have the chance to experience that online event this year, as usual
Yeah.
in these coronavirus times.
Yeah,
Everything's going online, and it's kind of sad, but then
yeah, and
something
it's-
new.
Yeah, but also too late to participate anyway, since we're a day away. But then they usually stream everything after. So if you're a Blender user and we're looking forward to it, then maybe by the time this comes out, you'll it'd be time to hit YouTube and check for the shared streams, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so
That's
If there's-
silence.
yeah.
I have a lot of updates from the farm.
Okay, so
Uh,
I think let's turn it over to you then. I think we're good with the general news this month.
Okay,
Didn't
yeah,
really pick
so-
up much.
So yeah, there's a lot of good news for GPU rendering. We added 5P100 nodes to Xestop, and these, I mean, there are 8 cards, P100 cards per server, and they are slower than other cards we have, like V100 and 1080s, but they have more VRAM, and I mean they have the same amount of VRAM as the V100, and they have the NV link, so they're little more expensive than the standard setup, which is our, oh my god, I'm sorry, need to check something. They're a little slower than 280s, but you can, it's like a setup between V100 and 280. So it's kind of like a move towards the proposition towards the people who needs more VRAM. So this is a good news. Like you can have find
Awesome.
something. Yeah, this
Oh.
is still a problem.
But what about-
GPU?
Yeah, and what about the prices for the rental rates?
So they are they cost $6.50 per hour. So they are
That's pretty good
yeah.
compared to compared to so it's $8 an hour for the V100s, and then correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, and then maybe I think it's still
Six-
six for the 1080s.
Yeah, 6 for 1080s, and for P100 it's $6.5 per hour. But you have this it's cheaper than V100, but you have the same amount of RAM, and you have
Yeah.
60 gigabytes of VRAM, and you can couple it using the NV link. So this is an option for people who maybe don't need such a huge power when it comes to speed, but they for sure need more VRAM. Another thing is that for our Cloud Redshift rendering, we added support for Altus Denoiser in all supported base 3D apps, so 3ds Max, Maya, and Cinema 4D. Another thing is that for Rhino and V-Ray, we allow rendering single frame on a single node without strips mode, which is sometimes helpful. We had some problems with Rhino. We have this strips mode, which for actually every software. So basically, it splits the whole high resolution still image and renders it on several nodes or many nodes, and then puts it together to one image. But for Rhino, we added possibility. I mean, for other software, it's possible. It was possible, but for Rhino, we added a possibility of rendering the whole frame on a single node. So you can ask us on chat for CPU node, for example, to render such an image. For SketchUp and V-Ray, we added support for Laufwerk assets linked in as VRMesh files. For 3ds Max, we added an auto deploy for TFlow for Max. So this is that plugin. And what auto deploy means? It means that our plugin is going to find your version of TY Flow on your computer, and when you render it on our nodes, it's going to install exactly the same build on our end. So this is like automatic matching the version to your version. Also we improved some multi-scatter auto deployed, and this is, I think, a very good news. We added support for 4K cache GI solver in Corona 6 and higher, 6.0 and higher. So this is that new GI solver in Corona, and you can already render with it on our farm. For Cinema 4D, we have a new video tutorial for Cinema 4D takes rendering on the farm. So I encourage all Cinema 4D users to check it. You can very easily render your project which use Cinema 4D takes. We added support for Cinema 4D R23, and we also upgraded all Grayscale Gorilla plugins. We have the whole suite for Cinema 4D R23. So this is another good news. You can play around with this. Blender, we added support for VDB caches sequences. For Maya, we added support for Redshift proxies assets. Also, we added support for VRMesh assets used with V-Ray 5.x render. We added support for LUT files connected in Redshift render view. So a lot of good stuff for rendering with Maya and Redshift on our farm. And for Web Manager, which is our online browser dashboard where you manage your scenes and your jobs. We added we have this in Render Beamer, which is our uploader. We have this feature of auto submit. So basically it means that you don't have to, if you have a lot of scenes, you don't have to add them to the queue with the submit window every time. You can put together some template, and you can upload a lot of scenes. Like, let's say you have the 20 stills to render, and you just have one settings, and they are all automatically added to farm without choosing all the settings every time. So we added features to this auto submit, like sub features. One of them is that you can add custom script support to auto submit. It doesn't mean that you can just take a script and add it to your scene, but you have to, if there is some custom script needed, you can contact our support on the chat, and we can prepare it, and then it's going to be added to the job, also with auto submit feature. And also we added handling the strips rendering for Cinema 4D with auto submit, which is actually, I mean, it's of course good feature, but it's a kind of like a standard which we are shooting for, because auto submit is very often used with rendering high resolution still images, because customers maybe can have like 5 animation jobs, 10 animation jobs, then this auto submit starts to be needed. But people who render still images very often render a lot of them. So strips is still images feature, and so if you use Cinema 4D and you have a lot of a lot of still images to render. You want to render them with strips on multiple nodes. Now you can have some set some set of settings for all the jobs, and just upload all the stuff of the cameras, and don't worry about adding them to the farm. So yeah, so this is what happened. The most important updates from the farm, because of course it's like very long list of fixes, bug fixes, and under the hood improvements and stuff like that. But that would be boring. So I only was talking about the goodies which appeared on the farm.
Yeah, which might be especially helpful these days with people on many parts of the world being locked down again. Or how is that on your side? Like the October, at least here where I live, it was like growing. The second wave of the coronavirus stuff happening a lot. So more time in front of a computer.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I don't think I mentioned that we added 5 of those P100 nodes, so it's quite a lot. And yeah, they have 8 cards. They have 8 GPU cards because like software like Octane, for example, supports 10 cards. But there are softwares which have problems with supporting so many cards. I think the Redshift can support up to 8. So so this is a better solution for this. Also for this software which doesn't support so many cards. Like we have 10 of them on the 1080 Ti servers.
So that's 5 servers available to rent on the.
There are 5 servers available with P100.
With P100, cool.
Yeah. So it's cool. So
yeah,
that's
I guess we pretty much blazed through the October updates. But yeah.
Yeah, the leaves here are getting more and more colorful. So if you want to do that in 3D applications of yours, especially in V-Ray, you can have a watch of Andrew's tutorial how to make colorful leaves.
Oh yeah,
in V-Ray.
Yep.
Kind of autumny here, but maybe someone from the southern hemisphere is listening. So I guess it's the summer coming on your side, right? But wherever you are on the globe, after October, there comes November. So
actually, the first time you mentioned this November and October, and I actually, after last podcast, I checked on it because I was looking for some sources for our listeners to check on. And yeah, this is like a serious thing. Like they have their own website with the November website where there are the rules and stuff like that.
I think it's just like
I found
online, right? There's
I found the
official website.
Yeah, I mean it's very small website, and I found both for Inktober and for November.
Yeah, no, Inktober is kind of like set up by a drawing like Jake Parker, I think, an illustrator, and he invented this sort of for himself.
No way.
And then it became kind of like an online event.
Jake Parker made Inktober?
Yeah.
So did you hear about the whole plagiarism? Is that him?
Yeah, that was
him plagiarizing from Alfonso Dunn, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear about that incident? Well, okay, so anybody who's into some like ink drawing, or anyone who's familiar with who follows like Jake Parker and maybe Alfonso Dunn, that's pretty much basically what happened was Alfonso Dunn, who's kind of sort of been this very low key but very competent pen and ink illustrator, who he like his who provides a lot of like valuable education on YouTube, came out with another edition of his book, or maybe it's the first of of that particular book, or his first ever book. I'm not sure, but he released a book on pen and ink drawing, and then shortly after, Jake Parker released his book, and it was sort of made known to Alfonso Dunn that like I think Jake Parker told Alfonso Dunn that he checked his book and was very inspired by it or something like that. But then there were at some point Alfonso Dunn kind of pointed out some very like some very traceable parts of some illustrations and some content in Jake Parker's book that could be very easily traced back to
there's a video about
Alfonso
this.
Dunn's book. Yeah.
It was kind of like ringing through YouTube and stuff, like people were commenting on that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I brought it up because I didn't know that Jake Parker made Inktober. I mean, I know of Jake Parker, but I didn't know that Inktober was what made him. Yeah. Wow.
It kind of helped making him famous, definitely. But and generally, he's also like he has the Inktober logo copyrighted because he's invented it. But it's generally like the event is even living its own life on the web anyway. So it's kind of like the play. Like some people like connected this, like I'm not doing Inktober anymore because of this issue. Well, I wasn't really clear out of all of these videos if this really is to be considered hardcore plagiarism. Well, some of the evidence that the guy showed was kind of like, can you really plagiarize some basic ideas? Well, maybe. That was debatable, but then he probably like more focused on that the structure of the book was too similar, the layouts and stuff like that. So perhaps there was a point there. I'm not sure. I'm not taking sides on this. Anyway, this kind of but that was a funny thing to look at. It's a funny thing to look on the web itself, like how it introduces emotions of people, and they kind of like wanna become some kind of tribal, pros and cons, people behind Jake Parker, people like
but on the
shit
other
at
hand,
Jake Parker on the and stuff like that. Well, that's just.
But on the other hand, it's also nice to. I mean, because I don't. Yeah, again, I'm also not sure if
it's kind of
any
similar,
plagiarism actually happened. But it's kind of nice to see that if something like that were to happen, like independent publishers like Alfonso Dunn, can take it to the. There's a lot of like it could be good for him if it really is plagiarism, or if it really is people who might be going through the same thing, who are very clearly victims of plagiarism. I mean,
and I think it's kind of like a similar thing, like the Apple versus Epic thing, but then there's just companies really fighting on some kind of an argument about something, and this is like more personal because these two people are really like individuals, and what I mean is like
and
people
also
standing
in the drawing scene.
And like people like on the web, like taking sides on this kind of a conflict. If they are commenting on companies, this is really like kind of a little bit more abstract, but then it comes down to real human beings, like particular individuals. It kind of like sometimes gets scary, like if people take it like too seriously.
Yeah, like
it's like more an argument between those two people, and not really like all of their followers or stuff. But to some extent, it comes in waves.
Yeah, but Alfonso Dunn really did kind of make YouTube videos, sort of reporting, the alleged plagiarism, and I think that's sort of what sparked the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that like it's nice to feel like you can turn to your community, I guess, if you were an author, and And he wasn't being immature about it or anything like that. I don't think he even really outright accused Jake Parker of. He was just kind of saying that, oh, this seems to me like
The
like
video
ripped
name
it off
is
my book. Oh
the
yeah.
video name is Jake Parker plagiarized my book.
Oh man. Yeah, I guess
Generally,
people
guys,
like-
just have a watch. That's one interesting thing going
But-
around
but- okay, but
around
he made-
Inktober stuff. So
he made the
I wish I
accusation
knew
in good
about this
taste.
Inktober earlier. Like I liked a lot. I don't say I'm skilled in that, but I like a lot this kind of painting and style.
Pen and ink.
I need
Yeah.
to
Okay.
wait whole year.
But guys,
yeah, but
like,
for your information, there is also a version of it like Inktober all year long, something like
Yeah,
that. Inktober,
yeah.
Inktober 52 or so. So like every week there's a prompt that people draw. It's less popular than the Inktober because it's not like accumulated like in one
Mhm.
month, but it's kind of like ongoing on Instagram. So.
I'll try. Yeah. I just realized that there were like these two ways of going through that, right? One every day and one like yearly every week or something.
Or
like
you
that.
can do both and still.
Yeah, and grow your muscles, ink muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean,
I wish somebody would do something like that for like oil painting.
but you need to
Lies.
wait.
Joy
With all-
lines, April.
With oil paints, you need to wait longer for them to
Yeah.
dry.
Yeah. Unless you're like an alla prima kind of guy.
Alla prima. I don't know this.
Or you can,
Like one pass, yeah. Like
Oh,
just
yeah.
sloppy paint and just really.
well,
Cannot.
you can always try the digital imitations.
And yeah, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted to wanted to share with you guys earlier before off air. But I came across this app called Realistic Paint.
Mhm.
There's a promotion now for $20, Realistic Paint, and
Mhm.
I gotta say, like it's amazing. It feels the initial package gives you pencil and color pencil tools, oil painting tools, some calligraphy tools, graphite and watercolor. So
But is it only on smartphone or like
no,
iPhone?
no. It's you can do it on you can get it for iPad, but you can also get it for the desktop. And it's the interface is beautiful. Like it
Yeah.
looks like you're working on a desktop. The tools are in these beautiful like 3D boxes, and the brushes are really just handcrafted. Like emulators of all of the mediums I just mentioned. And then you draw on this canvas that's actually that looks like it's sitting on an easel or a notebook. You can export the image, as just the image, of course, but even the feel is great. Like the traction that you would get from this medium on the paper is different, and the results are great. The colors are amazing. The gamut is much closer to what you would get in real life. In fact, something I used to do in something I would do in Krita, I've been trying to do in Krita recently was to change the color profile to aces, paint in aces, because you get that more accurate color gamut, right? Save out the PNG and then have to import the PNG in Blender and render it out with an orthographic camera, just so that the aces profile is kind of baked into the PNG. Otherwise, you'd open the PNG and then the colors would change. So that was what I was doing for a while, just to get that color, But now it's like, the color, the colors are great. You can blend colors according to your medium with like virtual easels. So if it's oil, you've got an easel for oil. If it's watercolor, you've got a watercolor box of the paints. You even and as you dab on a paint, on a paint box, you can actually see the pigment breaking, like reducing. It's just a very nice experience for anyone who likes to work in traditional media, or anyone who actually kind of wants to get the feel of what traditional media sounds like. So I highly recommended Realistic Paint. I'll link will be in the description as always. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have already been checking it out now, but you should. And
I'm just checking the interface is cute.
it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's super cute. But then like I think the only downside is that the image outputs you're exporting to are like limited to JPEG and PNG. And but I mean,
but what's
that's
wrong
all
with
I need.
PNG?
Nothing. Like nothing.
Yeah.
It's like you can't export with transparency because like you're always going to be painting on the canvas. So it's funny because you can render. I don't know why, but like you can export the image so that the desktop interface, like they'll set up your image in a 3D visualized room, so you can kind of tell people that you did it traditionally because it's sitting on an easel at a candid angle or something. I mean, I don't like if you want to do it that way, you can, but you can also just export it as a flat out PNG and then maybe edit it further in an image edit in Krita or some image editing program. But anyway, but whatever you want to do, it's amazing that the way it simulates traditional media is amazing. I did a few tests on the water, the colored pencils and the oils, and they look great. They feel really, really close to what I would normally do in actual colored pencils or oil, minus the hassle of having to clean up, and you still get to work in layers, so you don't have to wait for anything to dry. But it's much less forgiving than there's less editing control than you'd have in Photoshop. But the feel of the media is amazing, and I highly recommend. And
that's sometimes the thing that I really like about working with traditional media is that you can't really erase that much or just like edit to an infinite
but it's
extent.
it's not like it's super, it's kind of inaccessible to do that here, honestly. Like you can't really, you would have to browse through like your 3D, like browse through your art tools boxes and like virtually and find the eraser, like the set that has the eraser in it, to use the eraser. And you really, like, I don't know, personally, like I've only messed around with it a bit, but it really feels like I've never really found the need to add another layer, or you really do sort of, it's so easy to feel like you're actually working on traditional media because it just creates that environment for you, and it's great. I'm just, anyway, yeah, sorry, I feel like this has been we're not sponsored by this at all, by the way. Okay, it's just a really great.
You're just
tool.
excited.
We're not sponsored, but we wouldn't mind if you give us a copy each.
I already bought it, but I don't know, like still, yeah, sponsor us. But anyway, it's amazing. It's amazing, and imagine if you like making painterly textures, like you could paint over your UV islands this way. You could just projection map like this hand painted feeling of certain things to add over, like an asset that you created in 3D. There are ways, and it's just, but anyway, it's amazing. Like really, like the most like it's the most accurate, the most true to life you can get out, like in terms of like simulating traditional media in that price range, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, for sure you convinced me to try.
Yeah,
I need
sorry
to check.
So yeah, yeah. This
I guess October
this counts as CG, I guess.
Yeah, it's CG definitely. So I think that it's kind of funny that October kind of sets us up like painterly in mood. Like the October thing is like black and white, but it's also like ink wash. So you are talking about painting. I don't know. Maybe like here in Poland where I live, it's like this is the month of the colorful leaves on trees, the colorful autumn landscapes. So probably that might be reason why, because it's very painterly.
Reddish, yellowish, orangish.
The colors,
Yeah.
like sort of that,
But you said DJ that you don't like lack of undo on when you paint, let's say not the
I feel that this is kind of like a little bit uncomfortable while you're working, but it has its benefits. Like I'm seeing the difference between like working on a digital piece and working where you have all this undo and layers and stuff like that. A lot of things. It is really sometimes not helping on you for you to get like to really focus on what like be really conscious about what you're doing.
Yes.
And like accepting failures and also accepting that there's just one take for some things. Like I really like ink washing for that or watercolors in general. This is a pretty hard technique if you're trying to achieve some specific thing, but you have to like really think through what you're doing, and then it's just like one time and
you have
go
bigger discipline when you work, and also you have to, when you make a mistake and it's not possible to just undo really it, you need to learn how to make this mistake into a feature, like some positive feature of
or
your...
sometimes if it's not possible, you have to learn to accept failure as well, and I think that's a
true.
big lesson to learn.
You finish the work and thank you. It's like
you have to try it all over again from scratch. Sometimes it's even good for 3D where you're working on something and you just get too attached to what you've already done. You've put so much work, and sometimes it's better to just scrap everything and just start from scratch.
Oh no, I don't know. I mean, I've gone through that many times and I've hated every second of it, really, because you it's not just like it makes actually maybe. In 3D, it's great to go through that, because when you end up going back to 2D, and you have this like semi rendered thing that you've spent an hour on, then you're like, oh, I guess it's like it's not working out. I'm gonna do it again, no problem. Because if you do it in 3D, that means like if you get to the point where you're lighting and staging, and then something is just totally off, and then you realize you have to kind of like and this is pre like Blender sculpt tools of 2.9, mind you. So imagine like creating something in Blender 2.7, or like just in the early 2000s, let's say. And then you're lighting and you're cranking out your preview renders, and then you realize that your character's proportions are wrong. Like you're gonna have to, but you've already modeled, like you've sculpted, retopologized, UV unwrapped, textured,
but
you've rigged it to pose it, and then you're gonna have to do all of that, like all of the non design elements,
steps again.
Like you're not going to be, it's not going to help you become better at anything really. It's these things where like how to do it and then you do it. But
this is the process of learning
agree.
also.
Yeah, I would disagree on that. Well, like repetition is the mother of learning, right? So
I think
I mean,
I don't know, repetition. Repetition is the mother of repetition is the mother of habit, I'd say. Like you could learn how to play the piano using the wrong finger work, and you repeat that again and again and again. You end up becoming, it's like it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be you'll probably be like a piano player with a really big handicap because you spent all that time doing, So I would much rather like focus on creating, proportions were wrong, stop, go back, repeat. But then like just having to go through that entire pipeline and then giving yourself a deadline,
and that's one another reason for
you to rush a bit.
For going for full procedural, editable, non-destructive workflow, like from the very beginning. If you're into that all the way through, then if you have the option of correcting something on the like root of the tree, it kind of updates the thing to the whole.
But it's like how much can you really dig in your work. At some point, you have to like call it finished, even if it's not, like you need to deal with the fact that
that's what I meant
take the
also
lesson,
about learning
start
to
another
accept
thing.
failure, right? So that you can kind of like even with a failed artwork, you can just call it an end, right, and move on to the next one, and it really helps in improvement generally, I think.
It was in this book, the Black by I don't remember, the Black Plague book. There was this guy who was writing all the time the first sentence of his book, and he was not perfect, so he was stuck on this point all the time, like for years. So this is in this traditional arts, for sure, you more often need to accept some mismatch between your idea, whatever, and the effect. Let's call it failure, and just move on with new ones. I remember, like, I was after the first year of architecture, we had like this 1 month plein-air workshop outside, like the whole year. And I never painted. I only drew. So I started to paint something, and I took it and I showed it to my colleagues. And one of them said it was like on the very early stage, but there was that general idea on the whole, let's say, canvas. I was painting on paper. So and he said, "Don't fuck this up now." So I mean, he shouldn't say that.
Yeah, and then you get tense, right?
Yeah, and basically it was like, okay, the general impression is very cool, but now we are going to render it, basically, like add more details, and don't fuck this up with this stage. And it was like my first or second painting, like with like this very big, like 70 times 100 centimeters scale.
Yeah.
And I really was completely clueless of what I'm going to do next. But luckily I didn't fuck it up, really. Like, that was quite that was funny because that was my first painting. And they showed it on the. I remember I knew that there are guys out there who are painting very well. There are some guys after the high schools with profile of painting, and I could see people have painting skills. And so I thought, okay, everybody's going to go for very nice. It was on the countryside. For a very nice view, very nice, like some old hut or whatever. And I thought, okay, so I need to do it differently.
You went metal on that shit.
I found like a place where it was a lot of plants which were ugly, but not there's like ugly. It was like this very wild place. It was not beautiful, but it was full of these insects, and full of these random plants which normally would be called like pest or anything like that. And I found some old it was some old concrete part of some kind of I don't know how to call it, like some concrete element in this high grass. And so I painted it. There was almost no colors there, only just shades of green. And it worked. So then I did, okay, I'm going this way, and then the next painting were not so very well, so very good.
Oh, that's okay,
so,
man. Like,
but it was like the first approach was good, like with open head. I just recall that. It was years ago. But I remember, that was tough. Like, and you know what? like when you are now painting digitally on the on your screen. Well, there's a difference between painting on the screen and, for example, going out to the countryside and painting. Like a friend of mine was bitten by some bug, because he found some pond, and it was very cool place. We painted it, and there was some pond, and it was like also very wild place. And he got bitten by some bug, and his hand completely went like red, and he had to go to hospital. But because but he said, okay, this bug bited me into my hand, which I don't use for drawing. So he said, okay, so it was like there was some kind of infection going on, so it was going red, more red. But he said, okay, I'm going to finish the painting, and then I'm going to doctor. And then this kind of bug bit him into another hand, and it was the same. So finally, this guy had like this 2 red hands, completely like they got huge, and then he was like the whole week going with bandages on both hands. And yeah, so this is the
true art demands
experience.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
he was caught red-handed, really.
Yeah, but like people would disappear some in the woods and stop, and at some point we figure out that this is good to invest some time into painting the landscape. Like, don't make a break for a supper, or I mean for a dinner or something like that. Just too much walking, not enough painting, and yeah, people disappear, go back, bitten by mosquitoes. And yeah, and it's kind of like this, like when I painted this wild place with no beautiful flower on the horizon. Like everything was like kind of like very aggressive Eevee and Ivy and stuff like that. Like this kind of not maybe at the first glance beautiful stuff. Yes, it was very hot. It was very hot summer. I was alone for hours, like 8 hours in this place. So at some point you start to get that feeling of this place. And I don't know if you could get this feeling if I was painting that on my screen, like with
well,
especially.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally, like painting from that life is totally useful. It has it like it. I totally enjoy it. Also,
you can always be
but
like
come on,
Kung,
it's like
Kung Fury. You can be struck by lightning and bitten by a cobra.
Yeah, but it's not like by messing around with these traditional emulators, you'll never find the urge to go outside and do it for real, right? Of course, like the actually doing it like has its benefits, but why not take advantage of the fact that you can get a pretty close. Like for me, I enjoy it because of its look. Like I enjoy traditional medium because of the way it looks, and I'm willing to pay the price of like uncertainty and added, the more time that you have to put in and the more care that you have to put in, and also kind of the more like kind of your inner conflicts, you have to kind of resolve them as you're working through the traditional piece. Like I'm totally cool with all of that because it's part of the experience. It will give me this nice, like I enjoy like looking at the texture of the graphite on the paper as it grows into something else, etc. So being able to get sort of that effect digitally, it kind of emboldens me to be more explorative in that, like, I don't necessarily need to always, and this is going to be controversial, but I don't need to always use reference. Like I can choose when I want to work with reference and when I want to hone my ability to work without it, just to bust out a quick rough illustration that has an idea that I can then later on refine with reference if I wanted to. And being able to do that and simulate like the feel of working with a particular medium is in digitally is great. Like how like if you work with graphite, like you work with colored pencils, like your strokes will inevitably differ from like the way like
there's a different reaction of the
yeah
surface on
yeah
your,
yeah and
yeah,
it also
mhm.
it prompts you to behave a different way, like I find that for me when it's like I kind of like that feeling of you're kind of being haphazard with your with your marks. Like I like that sense. So I mean,
No,
you do if you do
I know.
that in oil, it's different from like what the way you. I don't know. It just changes the way like it changes the way you approach things. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's
Because it's a
psychological,
physical
but
process.
but this app, but this program, I'm saying like uh, it's like it simulates the drag, and I think I don't know. Maybe it's psychological, but it seems like it feels like if I choose to do graphite on a particular paper surface, like the drag is
Mhm.
different, and
Mhm.
it kind of does make me think about how it does feel on actual like rough paper and with graphite, with soft graphite, and same with the oil, and it behaves the same way. So you can't just it's not like it looks like an oil brush, but you can but the colors react with each other like any other digital painting app. No, like here it's like you're if you
We
make
need
the
to check it.
wrong yeah just I mean I'm not trying to I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't even probably be talking about this too much in this podcast, but and I'm not trying to sell it to anyone or whatever, but it's just I don't know. It's amazing. Like I'm loving the
Yeah, but I guess
experience.
the conversation was more about that, like comparing digital media in general to traditional
Oh yeah,
media
yeah.
and the
So
differences that it makes, and it really makes a difference, right?
yeah.
I
So
know. I
then
noticed
I
that
think it's
there are people
dangerous
who
to.
like to draw. Like I'm not saying talking about the level that skills. Just people who really get into drawing and they really enjoy it. And I
Yeah.
remember as a kid and a teenager, I was drawing all the time. And my brother was drawing all the time, so we were not even going out to play footballs, anything like that. Just we were sitting and drawing during vacation. And yeah, it was like one of the, I think, especially during communist times, it was like very cheap way to have a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
there were not many tools out there on anything like that. And I noticed that, yeah, people who like this kind of drawing, like just drawing for drawing, they also like the tools which give this feeling, like when you draw. Like for example, in Krita there is one brush which is like this ink pen. It's very
Yeah.
simple. It's very simple and it's very quick. I mean, like there's no delay. I mean, even on my computer, like so you really feel like this ink is kind of spilling over around your brush, and that gives you that real feeling of drawing. And for the sake of that, it's I mean, it's very big pleasure to draw with that brush, because you
Yeah.
have a different similar experience of drawing. So like
Yeah.
it's not like this cold tool. Like you really have fun with that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that
Right.
gives you
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is like, let's go draw, let's go drawing, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. However you
Next
want
week
to
I will
do it.
tell you about my experience with
Yeah. Oh, word of warning that I don't think there's a trial. If you're gonna do trial, there is no. I don't think there's an expiration date to the trial, but they will time your session duration, which is also pretty wild. Like you only have 30 minutes to produce a piece if you're on trial mode. Then
well,
then
okay,
then you
that's
can't touch
fine.
it. So imagine it's like being in an art workshop, and then like the moderator is just like, or your teacher is just like, like pencils down, or you
Yeah,
can't
yeah, I
really,
get it.
yeah.
Okay,
Damn,
that's fine. That's fine. That's I think that's enough
Enjoy.
to
And
check.
anyone listening, like I highly recommend play with it yourselves.
That would be very easy to make with the demo to make the Inktober challenge every day one painting. You have
Yeah, because you can. I mean,
30 minutes
again,
and
like you can choose not to do to work with undo, but you low key can. Like there's a very small window, and it's like, oh, so I can I can work with layers. And it's funny, like if you want to cut a piece off of your work, I don't think you can copy or paste into new layers or anything like that, but you can cut things out. And then there's actually a scissor tool that looks like it's a photorealistic scissor that you have to get from a photorealistic box that you're gonna have to use to cut on. It's cool. It's a fun experience.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. Like this can inspire you to some stuff you would never do. Just
Okay, so I think like we're an hour in, and we spent half of the hour talking about realistic paint. So sorry to the CG to the 3D guys who are don't really not really into 2D. Like this one got a bit derailed. Yeah, but thanks for sticking around, and I hope I hope some of the news, or at least one piece of news in this episode, was of value to you guys. But I think we can call it here, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So this is us signing out. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one, as always.
See you next time.
See you. Bye.